providing solutions, advancing modern life through engineering with excellence.
Hello and welcome to Samuel Solutions, where we explore the people, projects, and ideas that are responsible for advancing modern life. Today is our very first episode, and you're going to get insight and vision on some really cool things that we're hearing from our president, Josh Maida, and also from our CEO, Everod Samuel. Samuel Engineering is celebrating 30 years. That's awesome to hear. 30 years of challenges, 30 years of experience, and 30 years of providing solutions. Well, thank you for joining us, Everod. We're excited to have you on our first podcast, on the Samuel Solutions podcast. So we talked about earlier, 30 years ago, we started this company. But you weren't actually here 30 years ago. You were doing something else. Talk to us about your journey prior to coming to Samuel and then how you came over to the company.
Yes, well, first, thanks for inviting me to this. So I would say probably the first 3 years, after getting out of school with my bachelor's and master's degree with emphasis in power systems, it was just figuring out what all this engineering is about, right? I was well grounded in theory from school, but when you started out, you really don't have any experience. So you really don't know much. Just prior to Samuel Engineering, I was working for Canada's largest engineering company. In the next ensuing set of years, 8, 10 years, I observed something in our industry, and that is the concept of the provision of value and providing solutions. And I realized that all solutions are not made equal. And what I mean by that is the majority of engineers are intelligent and sharp and good at their work. But, we work in industries with scarce resources. So, for example, in the metals and minerals industry, you might remember the gold rush in the western United States, and the ore concentration was very high. The grade was high. Today, it takes a lot. The ore grade is so low that it takes so much more capital, so much more effort, so much more material to extract the same ounce of gold. The same thing happens with oil and gas. Entities like the Rockefeller companies, Standard Oil, and so on, they would just punch a hole in the ground, and it wasn't long before they get a gusher, oil coming out. Today, we have to use a lot of complex systems like hydraulic fracturing and so on, which all are very costly. What I looked at was the resources was very scarce and finite. And as engineers, the world stops without engineers, I believe. And as engineers, we needed to come up with our methods of maximizing the use of those resources and not wasting them. Joining Samuel Engineering, what we looked at in terms of providing solutions is not just a solution, but a solution that maximizes the use of human resources, materials, and products. So use the least amount of input to produce the output. And that's the kind of solutions, and that's the difference with Samuel Engineering as opposed to other companies, is that maximization of value.
That's great insight, and it's great to learn about the maximization of value and resources. Along those lines, over the years, it's been 30 years, which there's a lot of ups and downs, and there's also a lot of challenges. And then there's also a lot of projects that you've probably done, thousands of projects, different types of projects all over the heavy industries. You talk about maximizing resources. Do you have a project that you could speak on that you enjoyed a lot and you saw there was a lot of ROI in talking about maximizing resources?
When I joined Samuel Engineering with Claudia, we converted the company to multidiscipline. Of course, my background is electrical engineering, Claudia's own electrical engineering, and I brought over 12 other disciplines. And we got a call one day, early within the first year. There was a challenge. There was a project going on in the early stages in West Virginia, and they had a problem with starting some very big motors. Two of them were 12,000 horsepower, and one was 24,000 horsepower. And the electric utility that is providing the power to the plant put restriction on the starting of those. I immediately say, yeah, we could solve this. So the client said, okay, we'll give you a week to come up with some solutions. And we came up with a solution using very fundamental principles and fundamental products. That was about 37% of the cost of what the other options that they had, using capacitor reaction starting and so on. The restriction was 4% voltage drop at the utility connection line. So Claudia and I had to analyze it. I did it by hand. Claudia did it using a computer. The 4% limit. Otherwise, the client would shut them down. So we created two modes in our design. One was the most stringent mode, and one was a normal mode, in case one of the transformers were down. And what happened was, we started it up in the most stringent mode, and we measured the voltage drop, and it was 3.7% voltage drop versus 4%. Now fast forward, in my history and all the projects that we've designed, it's rare that you don't get calls from clients every 3 years to fix something. It's 25 years, and we've never gotten a call to fix anything on that project. As a matter of fact, we got a call about 10 years and said, hey, listen, this thing just keeps running, but we are concerned that maybe we need to do some things to it to keep it running. And I said, just keep it clean. And so here we had 37% of what the client would have paid. And this is in the millions of dollars. And not only initial capital cost, it went in robustly, but it stayed operating for 25 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome to hear, and it kind of goes and ties together with our tagline, we provide solutions here at Samuel Engineering, and that's a great example of providing a solution, not just a solution that just comes and goes, but a solution that lasts and it has longevity to it. Talking about we provide solutions, we have that saying. We also have, I hear you talk about advancing modern life. I hear you talk about the flywheel approach. Can you choose one of those taglines and elaborate on how that came about, why you chose that as a tagline, and go from there?
Yes, well, I'll use we provide solutions because that's actually your mission statement, right? We have to be providing solutions that are necessary for the continuation and enhancement of modern life. Nobody wants to go back and live in a cave. And, I always say that the Stone Age didn't end because humans ran out of stone. It's because they found better ways to do things. And that's the purpose of engineering, is to find better ways of doing things that have value to human beings using less resources.
That's great to hear about providing solutions and just learning about the values that we have. Looking back 30 years ago, what makes you most proud about the company? What are you most proud of?
Oh, that should be easy, but that's a tough question because there are a number of accomplishments that I feel, I'm not sure if it's proud, but very fortunate. I would say, we have our core values, excellence and compassion. And I think most of what I spoke about is about the excellence side. But we have provided employment for employees in the company, many of whom have worked here for decades, who were able in turn to take care of their family meet their needs, and set up a good retirement. So that's actually one big item, I would say, that gives us some pride, and going on a journey with all of these very good individuals. The other thing I would say is that there are a few clients who had projects that on a shoestring budget, that they didn't have enough funding for those projects to buy either new equipment or to build the best plants. And we were able to come in and create solutions when other companies said it couldn't be done, whether it's using used equipment or combining technologies in a unique way. And many of those companies would have collapsed, or they would not have even gotten started. And we were able to provide those solutions for those clients. They were able to find their stride, and many of them are very, very large, successful companies today. So that is something that I would say we are proud about, and feel fortunate that we were asked to be the ones solving those challenges of our clients.
Compassion and excellence are at a very high level here and of high standard. So that's good to hear. Thanks again for your time, Everod. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your insight to this podcast, and we look forward to hearing more about Samuel Engineering on the upcoming episodes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So here we are 30 years later from the start of the company, and we're excited to be joined by the president, Josh Maida, as we said earlier. So Josh, 30 years, a lot has changed. You've been here for a lot of it. I won't say exactly how long because I don't want to date you, but a lot of change happened. Tell us what change went through with you and what you saw with the company.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about it today. One of my favorite things to talk about is this company. And I think, since I've been here 20 years. Over my 20 years, I think that the biggest thing that I've seen change is just more of an evolution from, what started as a small one-person company, as you previously heard, to what we are today. And that evolution is still based on a strong foundation of our keys to success and our core values, but it's grown into something that we have the opportunity to provide so many more solutions for our clients, in different industries, in different types of work, with different types of people, and that's probably the most exciting piece to me. And I think that we're poised for more growth. We're poised to be in a better position to support our different industries and really try and close that gap of maintaining modern life. Yeah, you probably heard Everod talk about.
Yeah, modern life we hear a lot about, and we just heard Everod talk about that. And you talk about growth. You talk about the excitement of growth. Here at Samuel Engineering, I know we have different ways of defining growth. Can you define that a little bit more for the viewers?
So growth, we think of growth different from, a public company might, right? Public companies always thinking about, revenue growth or share price growth, things like that.
Right.
We think of growth in the sense of organic growth. We grow with our clients. We grow with the industries. We grow where there are solutions needed for what we do. And that's how we define growth. That's where we look to growth, and that's where we make investments. We make courageous investments where it will put our company in a position to be a better solution provider out there in the world, to better achieve our vision of 500 years in existence.
Yeah.
That's how we define growth.
Yeah, that's awesome how you define growth, and you use the words solutions and vision. I mean, I know we're big at Samuel Engineering. You see our tagline that says we provide solutions. And that all came from a start, which we'll talk about more when we get Claudia on the episode with her. But it all started with just a vision and just a strategic way of growth. And we started as an electrical design company. 4 years later became an EPCM, and we continued growing from there. But there's a lot, and it's complex. The model that we have is very complex. If I was someone who doesn't know anything about Samuel Engineering, right? How would you tie that in? How would you explain who we are, what we do from a standpoint of the engineering and also from a standpoint from the project management, all the way through the EPC and the construction side. How would you explain that?
Yeah, there's two kinds of things. If I bump into somebody in the grocery store line, that doesn't know a thing about the type of work we do, there's kind of two ways I describe it. As far as the type of industries that we serve and the type of work, I usually tell people that taking any raw materials from the earth, and we have the experience, the expertise to take a design and build a facility that's going to take that raw material and turn it into something usable to sustain modern life.
Yeah.
So the sun, collecting the sun in solar panels and producing energy, or waste heat or geothermal, producing energy from that. Pulling oil out of the ground, gasoline, diesel that people know about, but a lot of people forget that other hydrocarbon byproducts, natural gas and liquids that are within the natural gas are used in every single piece of plastic and every material that we use in our daily lives. In this room right here, there's hundreds of different materials and chemicals that come from the work that we do. Taking rock out of the ground and producing precious metals such as gold and silver, or base metals like copper and iron that are used in everyday life, to even new materials, lithium for EVs, EV batteries, graphite, cobalt, tungsten, antimony, you name it. All of these parts and pieces that come from somewhere, they have to be processed, and it's a complex problem to be solved, and that's what we really like to do, is the problem-solving aspect. Yes. And where I said, taking raw materials from Earth, I hope someday we'll be finding raw materials from outside of Earth, from asteroids, the moon, and another planet, you name it.
I mean, yeah, and that explanation of just our complex model is so great, because I do feel like there's a learning curve with what we do, and we do so much. It's awesome to hear exactly why we do the things we do. And we talk about advancing modern life. A lot of times we hear, we don't want to go back to the Stone Age, right? We don't want to go backwards, and we want to keep advancing, keep finding out things and trying new things. That's just not at our engineering company, right? That's life in general,
right?
And we want to use that. So to put where this stuff comes from and to take that and say, okay, it comes from the ground, it comes from the rock, and we could process these things. That's really cool to hear. But we talk about the past, and we talk about where the company started, the challenges that we had. Now, moving on into the future a bit, we want to talk about where the company is going. What's the vision? What do you see going forward? And you're talking about 15 years, 30 years from now, where do you want the company to be?
I think, when I look at the future vision of the company, I kind of always start with where we came from. And I always start with what time-tested principles have made us successful in that period of time that will carry forward to the future. So, some of those that become kind of rocks that we build the company on and we continue the company on is diversity.
Yeah.
Diversity in the type of work that we do, because different industries have ups and downs, and if we want to be a company that's around for hundreds of years, and we have to have solid, consistent work to do that. So we need to be diverse in the types of industries in which we work.
Makes sense.
Diversity in the type of employees that we have. So different disciplines, that's served us very well over time, having each discipline represented in the chain of building a project.
Okay.
That's a core principle that we want to stick with, is different types of individuals. And the other side of that we've been investing in too is the age of individuals. Our industry tends to be a lot of, older individuals, middle-aged individuals. We want to foster the growth of younger folks, bring people into the industry, bring them into what we do and the excitement of the different industries in which we work. So that diversity is a really big deal for us across multiple different angles.
Yeah.
So that's kind of number one. So as we build on that diversity, really embracing technology as a near-term goal of ours and a near-term kind of really exciting aspect of what we're doing. How do we take all of this work that we've done over 30 plus years and all of this knowledge and expertise that we have, and how do we get 3, 4, 5, 10x out of it? And technology is starting to enable us to do that. We've always done work around the world. We've done work on every single continent except for Antarctica, and hopefully we'll get something on Antarctica soon. But as the work is more globalized, our clients are moving around, projects are moving faster. we need to keep up with that from a technology standpoint.
One more question, one more thing I have for you before we close this episode. Looking forward, what do you want Samuel to be known for from the last 30 years and going forward?
Going back to where I talked about kind of those rocks that we build upon, the
Right.
things that have been time-tested principles. And the other one is we provide solutions.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on in the world around us, what industry we're in, whether we're working on, solar or nuclear someday,
Mm-hmm.
we always want to be a solutions provider. We want people to think of us as the company that is going to find the best way to solve a problem.
Okay.
We're not just going to apply a one-size-fits-all. We're not just going to take a past project off the shelf and slap it on the table. We are going to come to a challenge with sophisticated ideas, sophisticated solutions, ground in experience, expertise, just creativity, outside the box thinking about the best possible solution for all of the stakeholders involved.
Yeah.
And that's time tested. That doesn't matter what industry we're working in, what part of the world we're working in, or this universe. We always want to be a solution provider and be known as that.
That's great. That's great. Be a solution provider. You heard it here first. Thank you so much for your time, Josh. We appreciate you. It's so great to hear that 30 years ago, Samuel Engineering started with an idea that engineering just isn't about designing something. It's also about understanding a challenge and finding the right solution. Today, that same philosophy continues to grow as we see new and exciting technologies and new exciting projects coming through. We take these past 30 years and we want to grow with our future and the vision for the company. This is an exciting time for our company and an exciting time for everybody involved as well. Thank you again for watching our first episode with our president, Josh Maida, and also our CEO, Everod Samuel. We're looking forward to what's to come in the future.
The people, projects, and ideas responsible for advancing modern life.